Application Note 304, Introduction to the Box Model. I'm Terry West, and in this app note we're going to talk about one of the most important fundamental principles in SHIP, the Serious Human Interface Platform, and that's the box model, or the container. If you go to our website and under the support link, go to the documentation area, and then when you get to the documentation area on the quick links, just go over to SHIP, Serious Human Interface Platform. You'll see that overview of the box model is right up here at the top. It's so important, it's part of your first steps. So let's take a look at what the box model is. Boxes in general, and I use that term somewhat generically, there's lots of different kinds of boxes. Some are really heavy and some have a lot less capabilities. Boxes have a variety of properties, and the heaviest boxes have all of them. And the most fundamental property of every box is its outer dimensions, the left, top, right, and bottom, and of course its height and width. That's the outer dimensions. All boxes are rectangles of some sort. And every box has an outer and an inner. Now, it could also optionally have margin, border, and padding that are concentric rings until you get to the inner. So if you have any of those things, margin, border, or padding, any or all of them, then the inner area will be smaller, of course, than the outer area. Everything inside the box that is actually literally underneath or inside the box fits within the inner area. Images are a little different. You can attach an image to a box. I love Windows. You can attach an image to a box, and it fills out to the margin area. So we've got these color-coded. The margin goes where this green area is, and then there's the border area, the padding area, and then the inner area. And as I said, everything that's inside the box goes into the inner area and is clipped there, except for images that go out to the edge right here where the border ends. Every edge, the left, right, top, bottom of the margin, border, and padding are independent. So they can be 2 pixels wide for the margin over here and 6 pixels high here for the margin on the bottom. Completely predictable and independent. And then you can fill the total area out to the outside. That's called the background color. You can fill the area from the inside all the way out to the edge of the border. That's the border area, or the padding, which the fill color, which goes to the inside of the border, or the inner color, which goes just to the inside of the padding. And you can have any combination of those you want. And if you go to this web page, you can walk through all the different properties of the box model, and I'm going to show some of them in action and then leave you to experiment with some others. So let's go to ShipTide. And if you don't know the screen we're looking at here, go back and watch Application Note 302, Introduction to Pages, and you'll get exactly where we are here. This is the off-the-shelf template for the SIM 231. And if we look at the page, the splash page, a page is a box type object. It's a container. And if you look in its property sheet right here, its type is page, and then underneath you'll see box properties here. So these are the various properties that are part of the box model. And you'll see things like vertical align, horizontal align. What they do is vertically aligns this object within its parent. Now, it's a page, so typically it fills the whole screen, so you don't really play with vertical and horizontal alignment. Nor do you normally play with the left, top, right, bottom, width, height. You'd ideally inherit those from the parent. In this case, the parent of all the pages is the display. And the display is a box object, it's just read-only. And so you'll look down here under the hidden properties, and you can actually see the width and the height are 480 by 272, which is a standard wide QVGA screen for the SIM 231. So when you look at this page, the splash page, and it hasn't got explicit properties set here, it says it's inheriting them, and it's inheriting them from the parent object. So we have a splash page, and in this case there's an attached object as well. That's an image. So that's how you put an image in a box. You attach it as an object. And so I could attach any of these objects that we have in our, and I can unset the object, and the image vanished. So I have no attached object now. The page is completely transparent. if I change my transparency gadget here, you can kind of see the checkerboard showing the transparent page. Well, it'd be good to have a background color at least on this page. If I slide down and change the BG color, the background color of this box object or this page, to this purple color, you'll see I get a background color. Now, you see how the logo here, the Sirius logo and the welcome text are indented by by a little bit here and indented here by a little bit. And notice how this text down here is up from the bottom a little bit. How is that happening? Well, if you look at the page itself and look at the box properties, you'll see the padding left, top, right, and bottom of 10. If I remove the 10 padding on the left, those things went to the left all the way to the edge. If I put it back to 10, you'll see they move back. And that's because these objects, this logo, this piece of text, and this piece of text down here, are inside the splash object, contained inside the page, enclosed. And so let me look at this logo object right here. You see the splash object, and then there's something called logo here. And if I look in the property sheet, it says it's a box object. It's got an attached object called iLogo, which if I look in my resources, you can actually see the iLogo is an image. And the image, if I click on it and I explore the properties of this image, you can actually see the source file is a PNG file. The image is 175 pixels wide by 34 pixels high. So when I look back at this box, the logo box, right here, and it has this attached image called iLogo, if you look down here at the properties of this box logo, it's inheriting the width 175 and height 34 from that attached object because the object doesn't have it explicitly set. If I overrode that and put 200 here, you'll see that the outline of the box object is actually bigger now and the logo is centered. I can even make the box higher, let's say 60, and you'll see that the box, this logo box, is now 200 by 60. The image is only that 175 by 34, and so the image is automatically centered inside the margins of this box. And so I've overridden the inheritance. Now, images will be centered automatically inside the margins of a box unless you specify otherwise. I can actually go into the X offset, Y offset, and put that at 0. And all of a sudden on the X, it's pegged to the left edge, no longer centered. Y, 0. And actually at runtime, you can move the X, Y offset around, and the image will move around dynamically inside the box. Bounce around, shift left, shift right. You can also do things like wrap in the X direction, and it will replicate itself in the X direction. Even if I move my X offset to 10, you'll notice that the first starting place of the image moved over by 10, and in the X direction it wrapped around to the back. If I set my wrap Y on, you'll see it's wrapping in the Y direction as well. Now, let me turn all that stuff back off again and get back to a straightforward image. In this case, I'm going to put it all back to 0. I'm going to make it inherit the size of the image itself. Okay, we're all back to a very simple, straightforward a box. Now, I don't need a full box to enclose this image. A box is a pretty heavy object that supports background color and padding and border, and it takes longer to render. Even if there's none of that stuff is set, it still has to say, is it set, render it? Oh, no, it's not set, don't render it. So there's a lot of overhead with a full-featured box. If you don't need a full-featured box, starting in 5.0.207, there's an object called the frame. You can go to a box that you have today, and you can say, convert to frame. And then here is this logo, which is now a frame object. It looks the same on the screen, but notice that a lot of those properties, the background color, the border color, margin, padding are all gone. You don't have those in this object. But it still has the attached image. Now, this image, this box, or in this case a frame, a lightweight box, is rendered inside the inner of the pSplash parent. I can move it around. If I said the outer left was 50, it would move 50 in. So it would be 50 plus that 10 of padding, actually 60 in on the screen. Now I want to show you something interesting. I'm going to make it minus 10. Notice that the box, and you can see the dashed outline, the box is actually going -10, which is through the padding area right to the left of the screen. However, the image itself is being clipped to the inner of the parent. In fact, all objects that live inside a container are always clipped within the parent's inner, which is actually very useful in some cases for doing all kinds of things, from maybe very wide menus that you move back and forth and become visible inside the box and things like that. But it's very powerful, and you can move images around. You can even do things like vertically center, horizontally make them right aligned, vertically to the bottom. So there's all the different standard positionings of top, bottom, left, right, center. And these are properties of the box object within its parent. And so it doesn't require any coding to do all this kind of positioning. So I've given you just a brief overview of the box model. Boxes are generic containers. They can be display objects, page objects, frame objects, which are really light, full-featured box objects like this button over here that may have border, margin, padding properties, alignment within its parent, replicating and wrapping images, offsets of the images, those kinds of things, colors, border colors. So I would recommend that you play with boxes within ShipTide, read the documentation on our website at SiriusIntegrated.com under the documentation area, under the box model documentation, and familiarize yourself with all the elements of a box model in order to create some great looking layouts.